some, it is merely a gateway to the continent, but to others, it is a graveyard of empires. But standing atop Beacon Hill, looking out over the churning grey waters of the North Sea, you feel something else. It isn't just military history, it's a spiritual weight. On today's episode, we are going to be peeling back the layers of Beacon Hill Fort. We'll go beyond the rusted iron of the Cold War and the concrete of the Blitz. We are going back to a time of monks and martyrs, to the religious figures who claimed this hill long before the guns arrived, and to the tragic souls who still walk its labyrinth tunnels. Before there was ever a fort, there was the hill. In the medieval period, the land around Harwich and Dovercourt was deeply tied to the church. Local legends suggest that the high point of Beacon Hill was once used as a site for a small hamlet's cell or a coastal chapel, a place where a lone monk would keep a holy fire burning to guide ships and pray for the souls of those lost at sea. On our recent investigation of Beacon Hill Fort, our guests communicated with a religious figure. This was down in one of the tunnel systems at the fort. They were getting very clear responses through a spirit box as well as a REM pod. So it's interesting to know that these religious figures go way back and they actually have nothing to do with the Beacon Hill Fort itself. Modern visitors often report a figure known as the Hooded Man. Unlike the crisp, sharp silhouettes of the Victorian soldiers, this figure is described as void-like, a shadow wearing a heavy, coarse robe with a deep cowl. He is seen most often near the edge of the cliffs during the sea fret, the thick coastal fog. Witnesses say that he doesn't walk. He glides with his head bowed as if he's in perpetual prayer. Is this the ghost of the 14th century monastic watcher? Someone who saw the Black Death arrive by ship and stayed on this hill to plead with God for the town's safety. The feeling associated with the Hooded Man is one of immense, heavy sorrow, a spiritual residue of a man who watched the world end from the safety of a cliffside. In the 1530s and 40s, the religious landscape of England was torn apart by Henry VIII. Harwich was a flashpoint. When the king ordered the house upon the hill, the first ever fortification to be built, it was constructed during a time of violent religious transition. Local lore tells of a displaced priest who refused to acknowledge the king's supremacy. Some stories suggest that he was imprisoned in a temporary structure on the hill before being moved to the Tower of London. In the deepest, darkest parts of Beacon Hill Fort, paranormal investigators have recorded EVPs that sound like Latin language. One group back in 2014 recorded a clear, rhythmic whispering that sounded like a prayer. When the audio was slowed down, the voice sounded frantic, terrified. This wasn't the sound of a soldier. It was the sound of someone facing a crisis of faith in total darkness. We're now going to move into the 1800s. The fort becomes a machine of war. But war and religion are never far apart. In the Victorian era, the White Lady of Beacon Hill became a staple of local ghost lore. She is believed to be the wife of a high-ranking officer, or perhaps a local woman of deep faith, who lost her husband to a naval accident. She is seen frequently in the twin 6-pounder gun battery area. What makes her unique is her behaviour. She is often seen holding what looks like a small book. Many believe it could be her prayer book or a Bible. She stands at the highest point of the fort, looking east. One account from a night watchman in the 1950s claims he saw her clearly under a full moon. He approached her, thinking she was a trespasser. As he got within 5 feet, he smelled old incense and lilies. She turned to him, her face a blur, and simply vanished. We can't talk about Beacon Hill Fort without mentioning the modern spirits. The death of a young man back in 2000 has left a permanent scar on the fort's psychic atmosphere. But there is a religious element here. Since his death, there has been reports of cleansing attempts and unauthorized exorcisms and blessings performed by various groups. This has created what some call a spiritual crossroads. I don't like it when people antagonize spirits or attempt stuff they don't fully understand, only purely because it can get very dangerous, not only for the people present doing it, but for the people afterwards, for other groups that want to use love and light. Visitors, tourists, and paranormal investigators have reported hearing screaming coming from one of the tunnels. The tunnels are long. They're a concrete corridor where the sound of a human cry is heard, only to be followed by a sudden unnatural silence that feels holy or oppressive. This is depending on who you ask. Is the fort trying to purge its own trauma? Or are the ancient monks and the modern victims overlapping in a single timeless moment of pain? I want to show you a video clip of this very tunnel. On our last investigation at Beacon Hill Fort, we had night vision cameras set up in the tunnels. We caught a sound emanating from the tunnel that we can't explain. It is a huge bang, but it's not only a bang. It sounds to me and many other people that follow us on social media, it sounds like one of the guns being used. The guns are no longer there at Beacon Hill Fort. But was we hearing a past test. Take a look at this. Beacon Hill Fort does have a sinister side. We've communicated with some very unusual creatures, shall I say. We caught a creature-like thing crawling up a wall and along a ceiling in one of the outbuildings at the fort. This was whilst we were conducting a team investigation during the day. This wasn't at night, this was during the day. This creature walks up the wall and across the ceiling and disappears. We find this extremely alarming. We can only put it down to something being released from a seance or a possible Ouija board session. We have only encountered 2 negative spirits whilst investigating Beacon Hill Fort. The rest of them are quite willing to speak with you and communicate with you and use the devices that we use to communicate. But there was one instance on one of our events where Team 2 were in Tunnel 2. The one we class Tunnel 2 is the one closest to the base room. They were conducting an experiment down in the tunnel when a guest said he had been punched. He was punched in the face by something that wasn't there. Amy, one of our team members, happened to catch this on video. This has never happened again since. We've done multiple events at Beacon Hill Fort. But this spirit took a real disliking to this guy, leading to Team 2 having to evacuate the tunnel to regroup. Upon going back, nothing happened. But in that moment, it must have been truly terrifying to feel something punching you that wasn't there. I'm going to play you a little walk around of Beacon Hill Fort. Not the complete site, but I'll show you some areas of interest whilst we investigate. Take a look at this.
There's a child in front of you. There's a child next to you. I'm recording it. There. Yeah. It's sitting, playing with the REM pod. Thank you. Got a child, Tim. It's playing every time you. It's playing with the dot. Every time you move, it's playing with you. It's sat between them and it's playing. Thank you. It's holding the REM pod.
Is it?
Yeah. There's another person just come in. That's gone. There's a child sitting in the middle of there playing with the REM pod, Tim. There's a child sitting there in the middle playing with the REM pod. I'm recording it.
So as the sun sets over Harwich, the shadows of the radar tower stretch out like long, thin fingers. Beacon Hill Fort is a place where the barrier between the physical and the spiritual is dangerously thin. Whether it's a medieval monk keeping his eternal vigil. The Victorian widow praying for a ship that will never dock. Or that of the restless energy of a soldier who managed these guns. Beacon Hill is an absolute cathedral of concrete and coastal wind. It reminds us that no matter how we build over the past, the souls who stood here before us never truly leave. If you happen to visit, bring a torch, but more importantly, bring a moment of silence for those who are still there, standing in the salt spray, waiting for a peace that only the living can give them. If you would like to join us on our next ghost hunt at Beacon Hill Fort on the 30th of May 2026, head over to our website and book your tickets. It's www.searchintothe-supernatural.co.uk. If you've made it this far into the video, I really want to thank you. I really appreciate your support. But most importantly, guys, stay spooky, and I'll see you on the next one.